So people on social media are completely tearing this movie apart. I mean, limb from frickin' limb. I have seen some outrageously bad reviews for this movie. And honestly, for me, the trailers were kind of meh, so I had no idea what to expect when walking into this movie. Now that I've seen the movie, I personally didn't think it was as bad as everybody was saying, but granted, what people are saying about this movie that they dislike, I can completely understand where they're coming from. And honestly, if you don't like this movie, I'm not going to sit up here and argue with you because I can understand why. For me personally, though, I did actually like the movie. But it was mainly due to the performances, which I think are very strong. I think the performances are outstanding in the movie, and they do a very good portion of the heavy lifting of what this movie's message is trying to be. And on top of that, I think the message of the movie is extremely strong. It's not extremely well done. It takes way too long to get to the gist of everything, which I think is where the movie's problems start. But the message of the movie and the performances are what actually made this thing pretty entertaining for me. I'm going to start with the reasons of why I can definitely understand why people do not like this movie at all. First and foremost, it is extremely slow. If your reason for not liking this movie is because how slow it is and just how the pacing is extremely sluggish, I got you. I'm with you there. It's an extremely slow burn that takes forever to get to its point. You really don't understand what is all happening in this thing until the last 10 minutes, and the movie's an hour and like 45 minutes. So that first hour and 35 minutes feels really long and really hard to get through. I mean, there was a point in time in the last 20 minutes, I asked myself, I said, did they reveal what this lady's purpose was? Because if I gotta go do a whole internet deep dive on what her purpose was by the end of this thing, I'm gonna be very upset. I just need some sort of information because with 20 minutes left, I felt like I got nothing. I absolutely knew nothing about where this movie was going, nothing about what we were doing here for the last hour and 20 minutes. I was about to be very upset, but then we got into the end, which is when it decided to make its full focal point, which is another thing that is wrong with the movie because it then tries to get very confusing, tries to throw a bunch of little minor twists and turns in there to kind of throw you off your game and try to make it a little bit more interesting, but doesn't really work. It's more so like, y'all are trying to confuse the hell out of me. Please let me know why I've been sitting here for the last hour and 30 minutes. Due to the fact that this movie is very slow paced, it's super easy to check out. I think if you are a film fan that is more so hooked on story-based things rather than performance-based things, this movie's not really going to grasp your attention at all. I think this movie, while having a very strong point and a very strong message, it does not do a very good job at keeping audiences engaged throughout so you can get to the message, because you legit have to wait the entire runtime before you can truly understand the point that the movie was trying to make. And it is a very heavy, dark, and deep one. But again, a lot of people are probably checked out by the first hour and 20 minute mark. Honestly, some people probably checked out at the 45-minute mark. Who knows? But I don't think the movie did a very good job at trying to keep people engaged throughout. I do think the movie did a great job at having very good performances, mainly from Danielle Deadwyler. Danielle Deadwyler is a beast. She is absolutely tremendous. I mean, first of all, a lot of her physical acting, and as a friend told me as a discussion I had after this movie with him, her eyes. A lot of the things that she is doing with her eyes to communicate her deep depressive state that she is in, she's killing it. She is absolutely magnificent in this movie. I loved her performance, and her performance is the main reason why I stayed engaged with this thing throughout, and the family dynamics. I hated the son. The son was a very annoying character to me at first in the beginning, but throughout the movie, I could appreciate the dynamic between him and the mom and how the little girl was getting in between that, or essentially they were trying to tear the little girl to choose a side and figure out, if she's on the brother's side or if she's on the mother's side, stuff like that. I really appreciated the family dynamic. The performances in this movie are very good. Even from this lady out here. She's creepy as hell. She does a very good job at just being creepy as hell with, her shroud over her face. Today. She does a very good job. The other thing that I thought this movie actually did pretty well was the use of her shadow powers. I mean, they're not necessarily powers. I don't know. Her supernatural abilities, whatever you want to call them. The stuff that they did with the shadows and how they had her pop up in certain places, pop out in others. I thought that was really cool, and they actually had very good creative uses for that, and I can appreciate the movie for that. And also, it was some very cool camera angles. This is surprisingly, this is directed by the same person that made Carry On. So of course, if you've seen Carry On, that little car scene that they had, well, you got a lot of cool camera angles to follow in here too. The other reason why personally I felt like this movie actually worked for me in some ways was, again, the message. The thing about it is you really got to stay engaged with the movie throughout the entire runtime to truly feel the impact and significance of what the movie is trying to say. Like I said, they don't necessarily do a good job of keeping you engaged up until they get there. But when we got there, and now that I have the opportunity to sit with that and literally think back on the things that happened in the movie that hinted to those, it's a very dark, deep, and heavy ending that truly, 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 I can appreciate Danielle Deadwyler's performance even more, because a lot of her stuff that she did in the beginning of the movie alluded to what the movie ended up being at the end. Once you find out who the woman in the yard actually is, I feel like that actually gives you an opportunity to look back on the film of the stuff that you were watching and go, oh, okay, well now that's pretty fucked up, but I can actually appreciate what that was. Like I said, the problem was I just don't think the movie did a good job in keeping people engaged until they were ready to reveal what their point was. Now, there were subtle hints throughout the film, but of course you're not going to get that until you get to the end. So it just takes a lot to get there. But again, the performances were very strong, especially from the woman in the yard. She was very good. I just am trying to figure out why they really tried to make it so complicated, especially with the mirage of just flashbacks, flash forwards, things that they would do. If you've seen the movie, you know what I'm talking about. They just tried to do a lot at the end there that's just really going to throw people off and just make people frustrated. But there is a point to be made here in this movie. I'm not going to get too deeply into the point that the movie was trying to make, because of course that would be getting into spoiler territory, but the themes surrounding this movie are grief and loss, because of course in the trailer we see that Danielle Deadwyler lost her husband and she is dealing with the aftermath of that per se, and this movie just dives deeply into the psychological aspect of that and essentially the things that we do in that state. But I think that just calls back to the credit of Danielle Deadwyler's amazing performance, because a lot of the physical stuff she does just really highlights how we feel in those depressive, deep, dark states after we've lost somebody so close to us. And it can really, and once you get to the end, you can really appreciate the things that happened beforehand. It's just like I said, it takes a really long time to get to the point, and you're really just sitting there after some point in time thinking, is there a point to all this? And there is. And it's very dark, and it's very deep, and it's very heavy. But you just got to be able to stick with it to get through it, and I don't think everybody's going to be able to do that. So, today's the day.